Hello everyone. It's been a while since I've done an IT video, so today I wanted to take some time to overview how to deploy an F5 Virtual Edition for your home lab into Proxmox. I have a few links that I found that helped me through this process that I will share with you. Those links will be in the video description below. If you get a chance, please take a look at those. And while you are down there, I would encourage you to hit that thumbs up button if you liked the video and found it useful. I would also appreciate you taking the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. To begin, I will share this first link here that helped me in building my own home lab. And this provides you the link to downloading the BigIP Virtual Edition. It does say here that it requires an F5 support account, but that's not necessarily true. As you click on the link, you can click on the create an account and get one set up, and then you can get yourself access to the download link. So I will log in with my particular account. If you happen to have an F5 support ID, that login account will work just fine. And upon logging in, you should be taken to the downloads home page where you will see a find a download button. If you don't see this page right off the bat, then just go back to your breadcrumbs menu here and select the download homes and click the find a download button. And what we're interested in here is the BigIP F5 product family. And today's demonstration is going to be on installing and configuring BigIP version 13.x Virtual Edition with Traffic Management Operating System. So when you click on this, you'll get an option here to download the various versions that are available. Of course, we will select the latest, and we'll scroll down and we'll select Virtual Edition. With that, we are interested in downloading the image set for the KVM Red Hat Enterprise Linux CentOS version of this. Now you'll notice here that there is a name schema here to this particular file layout. So let's talk about that here for a second. The nomenclature for this is BigIP version, the build, the type, and the hypervisor. So in our case, we want to go with all, which is suitable for the BigIP VE system, provisioned with multiple modules. In this particular lab, I do intend to use other modules beyond just LTM. So this is going to be the particular image type that I am going to download. Here you want to select the region from which you wish to download the image set and begin the download. All right, now while that's downloading, you can close your tab and we'll build our shell VM. So to do that, within Proxmox, we're going to use the Create VM button, and we're going to give our F5 container a name. Next, for the OS type, we're going to say do not use any media because we are currently pulling that down right now, essentially. For the system, we are going to accept the defaults. And for the hard disk, we are also going to accept the defaults. For the hard disk, we're going to end up deleting this anyway. For CPU, we want to do a 2x4. And for memory, we want to have 8 gig. Now, for the network piece, within the documentation for a BigIP VE setup for Linux KVM, I wanted to point out the virtual machine network interfaces section. particularly this statement here. For the KVM, 3 virtual NICs are required at a minimum. With that, we are going to go ahead and add this one network interface. And we are going to confirm the creation of our container. Now that it's created, we're going to add 2 more network devices. We're also going to change the model to VirtIO and check off the firewall option. Next, we are going to detach the disk that was created and remove it. Once your file set has finished downloading, you'll want to transfer it over to your Proxmox host. I've already transferred that file over to my Proxmox host, so I'm just going to go ahead and SSH in. I've uploaded it to the home directory of the root user, and now we're going to move it into the place of the VM store for the VM that we just created. In my lab environment, that is stored in this location here. The image ID that we want to use, of course, is going to be 103 or whatever it is that was assigned when you created your shell VM for your F5 lab container. I've already copied this file into place, and we're just simply going to go ahead and unzip. Once that has finished unzipping, it is safe to go ahead and delete this data store file as it is now considered obsolete. I found that in the BigIP F5 documentation. Now, in order to reattach this disk to the container that we built, we will issue the command qm rescan from the command line. That volume is now attached to our VM, and we can go back into our UI, select the disk, and double click it. This will add the disk back and attach it to our VM. Further, in the documentation, it is recommended to set the disk size to 140 gig if you intend to add additional F5 modules, which, as discussed earlier, I do intend to do. So I am going to resize this disk and bump it up to make it 140 gig. That's all that is required to resize the disk, as when F5 boots up, it will automatically resize the partitions for us. Now that we've attached our disk, we can go ahead and start the VM. Here's where we're performing the auto resize for us automatically, and the system will reboot. Once your system is at the login prompt, you'll want to log in with the default credentials, which are simply root, and the password is default. Here we can see that our appliance is not yet licensed. To set up our F5, we're going to type the config command. And then we're going to follow up the prompts here to set up our IP address. I wish not to use DHCP in this case, so I'm going to select no here, and I'm going to set a manual IP, or a static IP rather. Here it's going to ask if you want to create a default route for the management port, in which case I do wish to do that as I want to have this F5 accessible from other networks. Here we'll confirm our confirmation and wait for the F5 to configure itself. Now that that's done, we can run a few simple TMSH commands to take a look to see what the listening port is for SSL. Here we can see we're listening on port 443, and now we should be able to hit our appliance. You'll be presented with your connection is not private because of the self-signed SSL certificate. That's okay, you can go ahead and proceed. And here we'll be presented with our BigIP configuration utility UI. To log into the UI, use the default username and password of admin. And now we are here at our setup utility. The first thing we're going to do is license our device. In order to get a registration key, you can sign up for a 90-day trial by referring to the aforementioned link that I described at the beginning of this video. Otherwise, for a mere $99, you can also procure a lab license that I believe is good for a period of 1 year. Once you go through the registration process for your free 90-day trial or purchase a VE license, you will receive that in an email, and then you can apply your license key during the setup here. Here you'll want to add your license key and select Next. Now, as it's trying to receive the configuration data for the device, you'll notice that there is a resource provisioning option here in the menu. Sometimes I've seen it where this resource provisioning option has gone away and or is skipped during the initial setup process. If that happens to you, then don't worry about it. Towards the end of this video, we come back to doing that to where we provision other F5 modules. If by chance that option does appear for you after activating your license, then you could skip forward in the video a little bit to the point where we go through the resource provisioning process. Otherwise, we wait until the configuration for the device has been completely updated and verified by F5. And we click continue. Now here it's generated a certificate, and we can either decide to use this or we can renew it to create another one to give better information that's more suited towards our device. I'm going to extend this out to 10 years and we'll click finished. This will want to redirect back to the login page or to the main page at which point, since there's a new certificate, we will have to validate that we're okay with that. And we can click next to continue on with the platform setup. Here's where you can set the host name and the time zone, and set the password for both root and admin. And we'll click next. Here you'll get a notification that since the password has been updated, we will be logged out and must log in with the new password to proceed with the setup. Upon doing so, we'll be asked to set up an NTP server. Here I'm going to use time.apple.com. And we'll be asked to set up some DNS servers. Here I'm going to go ahead and add the Google DNS. And I'm actually going to prioritize that over my routers. And I'll go ahead and add re.se.net. And we'll click next. Now here it's going to ask us to set up the internal VLAN and external VLAN, which we are going to skip for now. At present, I don't have any networking hardware that will support the setup of VLANs. I did, however, procure some brand new Ubiquiti Networks gear that I intend to set up here in the near future, at which point I will then come back and configure some VLANs here on the F5. To bypass the configuration of internal VLAN and external VLAN, we will simply just click through onto the next menu option, going straight to logging, at which point we'll accept the defaults and click finish to complete our setup. Once the device configuration has been updated, we may click continue to continue. Now at this stage, we'll be ready to go ahead and set up other F5 modules. And in order to do so, click System and Resource Provisioning. Now in this particular case, I am also interested in use of the Global Traffic DNS module. So I'm going to click that option and set it up to minimum. Now, while these others do appear interesting, I am not ready to experiment with these quite yet, but looking at the license status, you can see which ones are licensed, and that can be checked on or off. And to install these modules, simply click Submit. It'll inform you that reprovisioning may restart daemons or reboot the system. Are you sure you want to proceed? And we are. We will click OK. Usually the installation of new F5 modules does require a reboot of the device. We'll wait for the configuration to update before proceeding to do so. While we're waiting for the configuration of this device to be updated, you may want to think about updating your BigIP to the latest version. And to do that, we are going to download the update ISO from the download site. Now that this is finished, we'll go ahead and click continue. And to reboot our F5, we can click System, Configuration, Device. And here you'll notice that the DNS module is not yet displayed in the menu system because we have not yet rebooted. So go ahead and click Reboot and select OK. We'll wait for the device to reboot, and while it's doing that, we'll go ahead and download our update ISO. We'll go back to downloads. We'll find a download. And here we're going to select our BigIP version 13.x. And here we're interested in obtaining the latest version that's available, 13.1.1.5. We'll accept the end user license agreement. And here you'll notice it says use for upgrades does not include an EUD. This is the ISO that we want. Click to download. Select the region from which you wish to download it from. And we'll wait for this to complete download. And once the F5 reboots, we'll import it directly on our F5 and upgrade our system. All right, so our reboot is complete. We can go ahead and log back in with our new credentials. And we'll proceed to updating the system. The system, software management, and image list. Here we can import our update. All right, now that the import of our update image is complete, we'll want to select this option and click Install. Here it'll ask you to provide a volume set name, and in this case, I'm going to give it a name of 2. Our boot location is currently HD 1.1, and I want this one to be HD 1.2. We click Install, and we should be presented here with a refreshed screen here momentarily that will show the installation progress of the update. If for some reason the screen does not auto refresh for you, just refresh your browser. And here we can see the detail of the update. As mentioned earlier, by giving the volume set name of 2, we automatically are given a boot location of HD 1.2. And once the upgrade is complete, we will mark this as active and boot from that new installed image. If you desire, you may click the details and you'll be taken to this other screen. It will show you the current progress of the installation of the update. It's really no different than the screen we were on previous, but nonetheless, there are 2 different screens to which you can follow the progress of the installation. Now that the installation is complete, we need to activate it, and we do it so by selecting the boot location, selecting our image, telling it to install that configuration to our volume, and activating it. Ask us if we're sure we want to boot into another volume. We select OK. And then the F5 will reboot. And now here we can see from our boot menu, it'll automatically select the updated image since we activated it, and it will boot into it. All right, now that our file systems have been relabeled, the system is going to reboot itself once more. Now here it's setting up our initial module provisioning, which will include our F5 GTM, our DNS module that we installed earlier. Now we're just waiting for the F5 to finish starting up, starting its processes in the background. Once that's completed, we'll be presented with our login. And here we have our DNS module that we installed earlier. And we are on the updated image that we also upgraded to. So that completes the actual setup of our lab LTM. And as you can see, it's fairly simple and straightforward to run through, just takes a little bit of time. If we go to our software management and our image list, we'll see that the one that we updated to is currently our active boot image. And we're pretty much good to go. So thank you everyone for taking the time to watch this video. If you found this helpful, once again, I would appreciate giving a thumbs up to the video and subscribing to my channel. Um, Please stay tuned for other videos that will be coming out here in the near future. Thank you again, everyone, for watching.